Everyone. I'm Jeff from the Taproot Foundation, and I'm joining you from Arlington, Virginia, in the DMV. That's the District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia, for those of you who may be introduced to a new acronym. I'm your host for today, and I bring a special love for volunteering. I expect that passion to become clear to each of you in the course of our time together, and hope that it ignites your own desire to give and do good for others, since clearly that is a reason for you joining us today. Some technical or housekeeping notes about today's events. Our conversation is being recorded. I see that now. All attendees were muted and will be in listen-only mode, and you are encouraged to participate in one of several ways. Please do use the chat to share your own insights, reactions, and ask questions at any time during the event. Doing so will not interrupt our speakers, and it will really add to the value of today's event. We invite you to respond to 3 anonymous online polls. Doing so will give our speakers and each other a sense of everyone's attitudes and expectations about skills-based volunteering. And then finally, we do have dedicated time at the end of the hour for questions and responses. Finally, something that you all might be interested in knowing is that Taproot will follow up with everyone who attends today and share the resources that we introduce and the responses, to any questions that were asked but not answered. Okay, here's our agenda. I'll briefly introduce Taproot, what we do and how we work with companies. We'll then focus on the perspective and experiences from one of our most valued corporate partners, ServiceNow. And we'll close by responding to your questions and also suggest some ways that you can keep moving on your skill-based volunteer journey wherever you are in that process. A little bit about Taproot. We are a nonprofit that helps nonprofits, schools, charities, small businesses, and other social good organizations get the support they need in core business functions. Basically, what that means is we connect volunteers with professional expertise in communications, marketing, design, finance, IT, human resources, anything that is core to running any organization, but in particular social good organizations, to the skills where they need help. Here's a look at what Taproot has done over the 20 years that it has been in existence. As you read these numbers, I do encourage you to think about how they add up. It's very important to see the individual in the big numbers, one stakeholder at a time, and I hope that you, being a participant in today's event, will see yourself in that impact, either because you've participated with Taproot as one of our partners, or just in pro bono generally. Also, an important comment to recognize here is that we couldn't achieve the results that we do without partnerships. So we're thankful for the many colleagues at Taproot who are committed and dedicated to this work. We're thankful to the nonprofit participants who are putting their trust in us and our volunteers and seeking support. And then also our volunteers who are responding to that. And then, of course, companies and grant makers who are allowing us the financial and human capital to do this work for the stakeholders that we serve. Here are some highlights on how we partner with companies. We do so in 4 primary ways that are shown here today for you. And today, our focus is going to be on how we engage companies and their employees in accessing and participating in pro bono on demand. That's what I have for our introductions today. And here I'd love to hear from the audience first before we turn to our speakers and ask which of the following statements best describes your organization's work in pro bono. So you'll see an online poll here that you should be able to answer. Excellent. I see some responses coming in. Hope you see that as well. Hopefully you'll see that live. And that's great and encouraging to see many of you who are just getting started in this process. also some veterans in that space. So to you, I say we're eager to hear some of your lessons learned for those who are just getting started and those who are new to skill-based volunteering at all. You'll hear skill-based volunteering and you'll hear pro bono support throughout the course of our conversation. Both are important terms simply to recognize the work that we're talking about today is employees and volunteers providing their professional expertise in core business functions to nonprofit organizations. We won't cover legal pro bono, medical pro bono, skilled plumbers, electricians. Excellent. Okay, great. Marissa and Jeffrey, I hope this helps you understand a little bit about who you're speaking with in this moment. And thank you to all of our participants for modeling the kind of behavior and interaction that we hope to see throughout the rest of our time together. Kristen, yeah, we'll go back here. As I mentioned, we've got two wonderful people from a wonderful company that's making the world better and work better for everybody. I'm pleased and thrilled to have gotten to know Marissa and Jeffrey over the last several years, and thrilled for your support and your advocacy for volunteering to each of you. And just, you are great human beings. And so, Marissa, I'd love to let you get started and kick things off by introducing yourself to everybody and sharing what it means and why it's important for ServiceNow to give skill-based volunteering opportunities to your employees.
Well, thank you, Jeff and Kristen and the Taproot team for having me here. For those who I may not have had the pleasure of meeting before, my name is Marissa O'Rourke. I've been at ServiceNow for a little over 6 years, and I am on our global impact team, and I have the privilege of running the strategy and opportunities for our employee giving and volunteering platform and programs. And I also just want to take a quick moment to give a shout out and express gratitude for Jeffrey, who is joining me on this panel today. He's a fantastic colleague and an ideal volunteer. He brings his authentic self to work every day. Giving back is ingrained in his identity, and he's just such a champion for encouraging others to get involved. So it's a privilege to be here on a chat with both Jeff and Jeffrey. It's a great group that's here today. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Marissa. Couldn't agree more. And so, yeah, please dive into some of your key insights.
Yeah, and I realize as part of the introduction, it might be helpful to give a little more context about the employee population here at ServiceNow. So we are a very rapidly growing company. We have, I believe, now over 27,000 employees worldwide. That includes in the Americas for Canada, United States, Latin America, as well as across Europe, APAC, Japan, India. So we have employees everywhere. I currently sit in our headquarter office in Santa Clara, California. So just if that helps give additional context for our programs. So with that in mind, one of the reasons why Taproot was appealing to us and has been a key part of our program is that self-serve is critical for scale with that number of employees. And when I started 6 years ago, we had 9,000 employees. So we've tripled in that amount of time. So my efforts would not be possible without programs that allow for self-service. And I included a phrase here that I recently had also mentioned on another panel I was a part of, that what I find often said by myself and peers in this space is that CSR professionals and practitioners are often part of a small but mighty team. So we really do need these type of opportunities that allow our employees to find and participate in offerings on their own time. So our partnership with Taproot, we leverage Okta and single sign-on. So our employees are able to find Taproot in our suite of other platforms and apps that we have available. And then their natural algorithm allows for custom recommendations. So this is really key to being able to match opportunities for employees and really meeting employees where they're at. We have found in the data of our participation that we have early in career employees participating, people that have been at the company for a year or two, up to 5+ year tenured employees. So it's great to see that we are reaching all tenure levels through these customized recommendations and through Okta and self-serve. So that's one of the first points that's really important for our program.
And one of the things that has always impressed and delighted me, Marissa, is the activation rate that is coming from ServiceNow employees. Best in class. Won't begin to compare our other corporate partners, but just celebrate where you sit in terms of the number of employees who are expressing curiosity and interest in skill-based volunteering. Also, that layer of complexity that it's available there for everyone, whether they're early in their career or have many years of experience in doing what they're doing. Also, that they're coming through many different time zones and geographies, not only coast to coast from one end of the country where you're at to another end where Jeffrey and I are at on the eastern seaboard of the United States, but also internationally as well. Curious about the algorithm. You mentioned that Taproot is providing opportunities for your employees to understand what opportunities might be right for them. I often talk about it as skills, interest, and availability. I'm curious to know from you, Marissa, if you think one of those three is most important in that algorithm, or if there's something else.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're all key, probably interest, because I think what's interesting for me when we connect with employee volunteers, and you've heard me say this many times, Jeff, for myself included, is there's often imposter syndrome that is found when it comes to talking about your skills and even inputting your skills as part of that first research. So I think the skills are important, and it's also about matching to cause areas that matter to you. So that's always a key part of our program and offerings, is that while we might have key focus areas as a company, volunteerism is about, supporting the passions and interests of our employees. So I think the interest is a key part of that as well.
Excellent. You mentioned imposter syndrome. Research shows even 71% of CEOs of large corporations and organizations have that feeling before moving forward, that they may not be good enough. The good news is that they probably are, but certainly pro bono volunteers are as well. And getting over that emotional barrier, perceived one, is a really good one. Also, love hearing you say that the cause areas are important. Through Taproot Plus, we have 24 cause areas that cover a pretty wide range of doing social good. And I'm excited to hear what Jeffrey, as an employee volunteer, will have to say about that as well. All right, wonderful. Awesome start, Marissa, and hope that our audience is tracking along here with some good advice. Want to go on to a couple other points that you were preparing for us today.
Yeah, so another commonly used phrase that I often use to describe our programs and our offerings is that at a large company, it is nearly impossible to promote and raise awareness about everything everywhere all at once. There are so many key initiatives. There are so many important messages that need to be consumed by employees. So we will also partner with Taproot to leverage pre-existing content that they have, such as office hours. And those are open sessions that our employees can attend to just gain more information about how Taproot works, how they may be able to participate. And then we will also curate a few dedicated campaigns throughout the year. So for example, we have our month of service that happens annually. And while volunteerism is promoted and encouraged year round, that is really the month-long campaign to try to drive as much volunteerism as possible. So we will partner to have a dedicated month of service campaign. A couple other that have been really wonderful that we've seen more recently is partnering with our employee belonging groups. So, which Jeffrey also represents in his efforts, but we have partnered with a couple of our belonging groups now as a way to activate and engage their membership groups, also with skilled volunteering, but again, more particularly focusing on those cause areas that are really important to them. So those dedicated campaigns allow for just more awareness about our offerings, in addition to just the self-serve on demand all the time. And that really helps us to break through the noise and focus on this at a few key moments throughout the year.
Wonderful. Thank you, Marissa. That leans into something that you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, from the Benevity folks, talking about how important it is for companies to consider months, days of service. in addition to allowing employees an opportunity to let their employer know what times are important to them. We launched Taproot Plus in a month of service and had tremendous results. Marissa, you also shared some of the really outstanding work being done by the employee resource groups that you call it ServiceNow employee belonging groups. And I won't steal Jeffrey's lightning or thunder, but wonder if, Marissa, you might reflect on some of the other EBGs that you've worked with, and do any highlights come to mind from a skill-based volunteer lens?
Yeah, two of the examples are both unique in their own ways, actually. So the first was from another very dedicated volunteer champion who wanted to tap into not only the EBG that he represented, which was our Black at ServiceNow EBG, but also his day job of design and reaching into the design org. And they had essentially a single day hackathon where they created content for the nonprofit partners championed by that EBG that they could then use during Black History Month. So again, it was a way to intersect members of the EBG as well as their day skills of designing. And what we've seen is that those nonprofits are still using those images even beyond that 1 month campaign in their marketing collateral, which is just lovely to see. And then we also partnered with our Pride belonging group. And I think most often these resource groups go big during the month of June. Understandably, that's Pride Month, but we took the opportunity to leverage I don't want to call it a secondary, but an additional cultural moment to continue the important conversations and work of nonprofits that are supporting Pride communities. And they had 2 sessions where employees could first seek to understand what type of skilled volunteering is needed by those nonprofit organizations, and then a custom event to actually tackle some of those opportunities in more detail. What we've seen out of both of those events are employees that were then able to carry on their own one-on-one volunteering beyond that. So these moments allow for really an introduction to understanding what skills-based volunteering means for them. And then if they have the bandwidth and interest, they've carried on to support those nonprofits in a long-term capacity, which I always think is just so wonderful for everyone involved.
You're absolutely right, Marissa, and this just supercharges my enthusiasm for the skill-based volunteering world. All types of volunteering are important. You've shared with me through different events that you and your team have run, building kits, building bears, stuffing kits, but then doing some of the skill-based volunteer work is really admirable. But you just keyed on something I hope most of the audience got, and that is about that long-term nature through EBG work as well. The Black It Now engaging designers for events and lasting community programs is something that's really energizing, as well as being creative and innovative about meeting nonprofit organizations when they may have a little bit of free space. June for organizations working on LGBTQ plus issues, and February for organizations that are serving specific communities in the United States. May not be an ideal time. So the Pride at Now's work during Transgender Awareness Week was really special, as well as how you described, and they have engaged with others throughout that process. So all right, 2 for 2. You've got one more best practice for us, Marissa, that I'm excited to hear about.
Yeah, this is really just another reason why Taproot is important to our offerings for employees. And we truly believe that ServiceNow has hired over 27,000 employees for a reason. And they are incredibly talented and passionate. And so being able to leverage their day-to-day roles to drive incredible impact for nonprofit organizations is exactly what we're looking for. And that's what skills-based volunteering allows them to do. It not only unlocks their potential, but it could also help with their individual career growth opportunities and tapping into other skills that maybe they've been looking to flex, and they can do that in support of these nonprofit offerings. So that was another key reason. I know I keep saying key. I'm struggling with the lack of a better adjective, so forgive me if anybody else has picked up on that. But it's another important reason, and one of the main reasons we were interested in offering Taproot to our employees, is that we know that we have incredibly talented employees. And again, when we go back to that imposter syndrome, we're constantly reminding them that, things that they're doing on a daily basis are assets and roles that most often small nonprofits just don't have capacity to do. So you're filling in those gaps for them. I think the other expression you hear often is that a front windshield is bigger than a rear view mirror for a reason. But I think people stop to reflect on the skills they have built so far because they're constantly looking ahead. But these opportunities remind them of the skills they have developed and can be used in different ways.
I don't think I've heard that before, Marissa, that quote, a front windshield is bigger than a rear view window for a reason. That sounds like something that belongs on Brainy Quote or from a very profound thinker, and that could be you. So I
don't put my name after it. I probably butchered the quote a little bit too, but the idea is that most people are looking forward and not looking back. So this is a chance to also just understand that they have developed these skills.
I do appreciate the visual and hope it resonates with folks as well about looking what's in front of us. Always important to check that rear view mirror, especially for those of you driving vehicles, but with life in general, it's important to reflect on what's behind us, but really focus on what we can do ahead of us as well. I've always been impressed by some of the spirit and virtues that model what the volunteer spirit is all about. Empathy, intelligence, patience, and entrepreneurial spirit. Jeffrey, I know, will exhibit all of these during his remarks. I've seen it in many ServiceNow employees as well. Curious, Marissa, if not necessarily any one employee stands out, because you've gotten a lot to pick from, but are there any motivations or interests that you're hearing from employees that are particularly encouraging for you as a CSR professional?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a couple of examples that come to mind, but what I touched on a little bit in my last thought was that maybe you have a job that is tapping into most of your interests, but there's another area that you're not getting to use as often. I think there was one employee who has a particular interest in content creation, and maybe that isn't their day job, but they've developed those skills on their own. This is a way to tap into that creative outlet as well with skills that they've perhaps developed in previous roles, even if it's not their current role. So I think it allows for a wide range of interests in their own portfolios. So I think that's another interesting motivation.
A wonderful point to remind myself and all of us about, and that is that we have many talents. We have talents that we bring to our jobs, and then we also have passions and talents that we might bring in other places. And it reminds me of a ServiceNow volunteer who was eager to flex their iOS software application fields when they were mostly focused on work with Android development. And sometimes it's good to work with both your right hand and your left hand for creative purposes. Excellent. Well, thank you for getting us to a great start, Marissa. Now is an opportunity for the audience to respond to some of the things that Marissa has introduced us to today. So another poll. I'm pleased to know that you know how to work this, and so eager to hear what some of your reactions are to Marissa's motivations to bring skill-based volunteering to employees at the company. Hopefully you'll have an opportunity to see that poll and respond to it. Maybe many to choose from, but what's most important, most resonating for you in this moment where you're at? And a reminder that you as an audience member are representing any one of three likely target groups. You're with a company charged with some of the responsibilities that folks like Marissa are in driving employee engagement. You might be here as an advocate or supporter for Jeffrey and what he's doing as a skill-based volunteer, because you are one too. And then finally, if you're astute enough to come here and think about what it is that companies are interested in doing, and you're a nonprofit, we welcome you too. And so it looks like there's some even split, leveraging employee talent, providing something for everyone all at once, and offering easy access, which we're glad for as well. All right, hopefully you can see those, a good even split. it looks like between the first few options. Thank you, Marissa. And thank you, audience, for your participation. I see some activity going on in the chat. Keep it coming. I'm not seeing it quite yet, but I know we'll get to it as we transition into our question and response period. But before we do that, we've got another incredibly important half to hear from, and that is the employees experience. So Jeffrey, thank you very much for joining us and offering us your personal experiences. I would ask you the same. If you'll please introduce yourself, where you're at with ServiceNow, and geography might be helpful to know as well. And then you can dive into your how and why for doing pro bono, and I'll follow along with advancing your slides.
Absolutely. So thank you, Marissa, for your kind words, Jeff, for your kind words, and Taproot organization and team for allowing me to tell my story. So a little bit about myself, Jeffrey Vique. I am on the East Coast, very, very close to actually Jeff in the DMV, the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. Born and raised in this area. I've been with ServiceNow actually a little over 3 years as a senior customer success manager. So I'm in the customer success team delivering our services to customers in the Americas. So there's a little bit about me and how I've positioned myself within with ServiceNow. I'm also, as Marissa referenced earlier, a part of the employee belonging group Unidos, which is the Latina or Latinx employee belonging group, as the co-chair. So this is my second year as the co-chair for the group as well, amongst other hats that I wear. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later on, about all my different hats. But I'm also a girl dad as well. Very proud to say that too. I got two girls running around as well. So just a little bit personal information about me.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeffrey. And you wear so many hats, it's almost like you're an entire costume department, but also appreciate you sharing how you're modeling what you're doing for others to your family. And please dive in. We're eager to hear as much detail as you're willing to share about your hows and your whys.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start off with a little bit of a story, a personal anecdote, if you will. As to my why, it kind of helps shine a light as to why I'm involved in everything that I'm doing. So fourth grade, many years ago, it was during Black History Month. Our teacher had separated the classes into two: kids with light colored eyes and kids with brown eyes. All right, and her instructions for the team were to send off the students with brown colored eyes. And I don't know if you can see well, the lighting is a little bit off, but I have brown colored eyes. And she sent off the students with brown colored eyes to go to recess, whereas the light colored eyes, green, blue, gray, all had to stay back and miss recess. And so I thought it was pretty unfair. And so I decided to stay back and hang back with the light colored eyes group, because I didn't think it was fair that the folks with the colored eyes that were brown got to go to recess. And so all that to say that it's kind of been in my nature since I was young, is all about social justice, helping people, being involved in the community, and finding ways to where I can protect and serve, right? And so that was a personal anecdote that I like to share, to just kind of allude and reference to why I do what I do. So to speak on a little bit more in depth, especially in connection to Taproot and my services here at ServiceNow, I think the main thing that's motivated me is my personal experience and the passion that I have. So that anecdote that I shared provided and hopefully shed some light into some of the passion that I have with helping others, right? I've always been passionate about giving back to the community. When I learned that I could leverage the skills that I've obtained through my professional career and my educational career to make a difference, I knew for sure that I had to jump at the opportunity. And so that was my calling. I feel like outside of what I do in my day-to-day as a customer success manager. Another piece I think I like to also describe is my desire and the development of the skills that I've obtained to give back, right? you know, I through my professional career journey, I've obtained a lot of leadership skills, interpersonal skills, and how to communicate effectively with folks, both internally and externally. One of the things I did decide to do a couple years ago is go back to school to obtain my MBA to really understand business as a whole. And so, with skills-based volunteering, I'm able to flex those muscles, right? And where I initially thought that I was, and I know the word imposter syndrome was thrown out earlier. I definitely have felt imposter syndrome, but this is a good way for me to kind of step out of that imposter syndrome shell, to be able to flex the muscles that I've learned in my professional career, but my educational background, and make an impact, right? And be able to sharpen those skills as well. So that's another reason, right? The desire to develop the skills that I have, and also give back, right? Also reverting back to my passion, right? Another piece is the networking and peer influences. I first learned about on-demand skills-based volunteering through Marissa and her team, as well as through the employee belonging group that we have. I had no idea what it was. I had no idea we had anything of the like. But the fact that I was involved in the affinity group here at ServiceNow, it allowed me to really get exposed to what that was and what that looked like, and how I might be able to contribute. So I think there's some phenomenal synergies between employee belonging groups, the culture that you have at your organization, and what Taproot does, and all of that is a perfect combination to really help build out what people yearn for. There's a saying that I say, what I do in my day job helps feed my belly, right? And the stuff that I do, the stuff that I've done at Taproot with ServiceNow, the volunteering, and everything externally helps feed my soul. And so I absolutely love that saying, because being involved with Taproot and what Marissa's team does helps me merge those two together, to really make me full, both inside and out. So another thing is I touched a little bit about the employee belonging groups. It's a perfect opportunity to engage both worlds in that sense, and that's what I've been able to do. And then the platforms and the research, right? Marissa covered some of the Taproot's functionalities and how they can merge with the functionalities at your organization as well. So those are kind of some of the whys and hows, but it all reverts back to the passion that I have for helping others. So.
I know I'm only struck when I've overloaded. My system is overloaded with really great advice and personal touches. So Jeffrey, thank you for being open with us about just how early your response to addressing need and in others that are, as you mentioned, during fourth grade recess. As well as another quote, which belongs on coffee mugs and wooden placards everywhere. What I do for my day job feeds my belly, and what I do with volunteering feeds my soul. I think that probably speaks for many others, but it's good to hear those validating comments. Thank you for you paying attention as a fourth grade student, for your courage, but then also acting at that moment, but then also living those practices as well. I think it's a great reminder for all of us to pay more attention, to be courageous when we see something that isn't going as it should, and then acting upon it in a way that keeps everybody safe and shows each other that we're stepping in for them. A quick moment to pause and say, Dee and Amy and Olga, we see your comments in the chat. We thank you for them. We thank you for those questions. They'll be among the first that we get to in our Q&A process. But Jeffrey, thank you for opening us up with those. I'm glad we're recording this time together so that people who want to go back and listen again to what you had to open up with, they can do that. We'll move on. If you would, please, if you have time to highlight all of these partnerships. This is amazing, and I know that it's only a fraction of what we could share, but we'll be delighted to hear some more concrete examples of just how you're showing up for different organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to point out the second one there. So Pan American Symphony Orchestra. And they're the ones that kind of help springboard my passion to really give back and utilize the skills that I've obtained in my professional and educational career at the forefront, and to help me flex those muscles. And I didn't know about Pan American Symphony Orchestra, and I'll explain a little bit about what they do and who they are. But I didn't know about them until I actually signed up to volunteer with Taproot through ServiceNow and the efforts that Marissa and Jeff were doing. Essentially, what Pan American Symphony Orchestra is a cultural, a musical arts installation within the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. They hold musical concerts to expose the people of the DMV to Latinx music, right? And they bring conductors from Argentina, Colombia, Mexico into the area, and have these performances at different venues, right? One of them might be the Kennedy Center or the Wolf Trap, if you're familiar where that location is here in Northern Virginia. And so I got started with them. They needed help with kind of strategizing their growth. And I connected with them through Taproot, and then that evolved into a more organic board seat. And I helped develop their growth and marketing strategy to continue to grow and excel, and that sort of thing, which was great. Because in the role that I'm in now as a CSM, I didn't have the opportunity to work on a strategic piece similar to marketing or growth or business development and that sort of thing. And so what I was able to learn in my MBA, my educational piece, I was able to bring forward and utilize those skills to be able to help them grow and continue to flourish in the area. So it all started with Pan American Symphony Orchestra, which I'm super, super grateful for. The other one is Latino Economic Development Center. And so what they do is they're a nonprofit focused on advancing the growth of the local community through financial and business guidance, as well as accessibility to housing assistance and programs for the underserved. So it's not just the Latino community, but the underrepresented group here in the DC area as well. And so I'm also a part of their board, and that it helps me ignite and that flame of helping others, right? Especially the underserved community here in the DC area. And I'm able to flex a lot of the muscles that I haven't been able to flex in my current role to help them, continue to grow and flourish, right? Same thing with Latinx MBA, another group I'm a part of that focuses on creating community and a network for MBA networks and alumni and current students to access that opportunity to be able to attend the MBA. It's a small percentage of Latinos that have their master's, let alone their MBA. So it's a perfect opportunity to really merge some of the skills that I've gained, right, through Latino Economic Development Center and PASO to help them out there. And the other one is Loudoun County Public Schools. So I mentioned I'm a girl dad. I'm able to also help in and help an organization called Minority Student Achievement and Advancement. It's a subcategory of Loudoun County Public Schools here in Northern Virginia that helps educate and advocate for the underrepresented community and students and families in the county here in Northern Virginia. So again, another subset of skills that I'm able to use to really help them advance, through marketing, through business development, through strategy, to help them flourish and grow. And as of recently, I've actually just joined the board of Tequeria, so another Latinx group where we focus on community in the tech industry as well. So another way that I'm contributing, and I do have to pay homage again to Marissa and Jeff and Taproot for being able to shed light that I can provide and make a difference through these skills that I've acquired over these last years to make a difference. And what I've seen unfold in my professional career is, I would say, the acknowledgement, the praise, and the capacity that my management and my leaders see in me to take me on to the next level, right? Whereas this, I would say, is a proving ground, right? to be able to showcase some of the skills that you wouldn't be able to do so on a regular basis in your regular role. This is a perfect breeding ground to really show off those skills. So I think it's a phenomenal opportunity.
Jeffrey, the next time we bring you and Marissa on board, it'll need to be a 2-hour event because I have like 6 or 7 follow-up questions for you and just things that are certainly on my heart that I want to mention. But I'll take you on to another point that you have so that we can then transition into some Q&A time. And I think you're beginning to answer some of the questions that folks have about how it is that they get started in this. But Jeffrey, thank you for those examples that you're touching on. Just at the surface level, certainly incredible. If you would share some additional insights and observations that you have for our group about your experience with what you've described as a great experience with pro bono.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest insights and observations from the skill-based volunteering experience has been the profound impact of small yet strategic guidance that I've been able to provide, nonprofits. But it's also, like I mentioned earlier, has shed a lot of light of my capabilities, right? Where the imposter syndrome piece, where I'm like, do I really, am I really skilled at what I think I'm skilled at? Am I really, supposed to be doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Or do I really have to have that ambition to do something greater? And this helped put a spotlight that I am supposed to be doing this. I am supposed to be helping through the means of the skills that I've acquired. And I do have these skills, right? They belong to me, and this is just proven that I do have these skills. The skills that I acquired are meant to do good, right? So it's providing a lot more meaning to what I do, which I think is phenomenal. So I learned a lot. Like while volunteering to help others navigate, how to do X, Y, and Z, strategize in marketing or in business development. I've also helped and expanded my own leadership skills, right? Deepen my understanding of diverse situations and paths, which has only made me reinforce how powerful community-driven initiatives can support breaking barriers and opening doors. And then, I didn't expect that some of these relationships that I've developed would evolve into a long-term, mentorship, right? Or a professional connection, right? I think I was not expecting any of that. And seeing people and organizations that I've helped achieve their goals and pay it forward has been one of the most rewarding aspects of this whole journey. And it's also deepened my appreciation ultimately for ServiceNow, right? One of the things, I think I definitely can attest to is it's proven that ServiceNow is a company that truly values the community impact it has, right? There's another saying, right? Like, actions and are stronger than words, right? So this is a way that ServiceNow demonstrates that what they say and what they mean is holds true. It's also reinforced my belief that ServiceNow is not just about digital transformation, but it's about people transformation, right? There's a very famous people pact persona that we all live by and breathe by here at ServiceNow, and this is a perfect indication of that people pact. And it's made me appreciate the space, right, and the support to drive meaningful change that I feel more connected to ServiceNow's mission and values because of these opportunities I've been able to be presented with.
More great quotes as well, which is really important. Actions are louder and stronger than words. And similarly, for those of you who are parents, children are more likely to imitate and do what you do than always do what you say as well. So it is very important to ask. Awesome, Jeffrey. With that, I'll transition us in the group to respond to many of the things that you said. So, Kristen, if you'll help us with another poll, that'll give the audience a chance to let Jeffrey know what of the many things that he shared resonated most with their own individual volunteer journey. we've got some good questions in the queue as well. So Marissa and Jeffrey, I will engage you in some of those. And think while you're answering, there's more best practice that Jeffrey's modeled and not shared. Part of that is sharing with others when your skill set is not the right fit, but you know somebody who is. So Jeffrey, this might make you remember someone that you recommended to PASO because they had interest, and probably 100 other examples for that matter as well. So hopefully, if you're still with us, you're able to respond to this poll about what's most important, and we'll give you another moment to look at your screens and share. Connecting with causes you care about clearly. I appreciate how Jeffrey has been strategic with your choices, Jeffrey. Your soul resonates with certain things, and clearly you're leaning into that. Amplifying the impact is important as well. Dee, one of your questions about what you post and how you ask for support is a really good one to have. As Jeffrey has shared with us, sometimes a discreet ask to do something with a specific skill leads to bigger things in a board meeting. Excellent. All right, we'll close this poll so that we can get to some questions and answers. So take another moment if you have to answer that. Okay. Well, Kristen, you can bring us into our question and answer phase, or we can stop sharing the screen for a minute and just focus our attention on Marissa and Jeffrey. We've got a couple questions in the queue. The first is about scheduling flexibility. So Marissa, can I direct this to you? How are ServiceNow employees volunteering their time through pro bono?
Yeah, well, again, one of the reasons why this works for self-serve and on-demand scalability is that they are only applying to projects when they have the time. So it's allowing for every part of the process, including the research when you have capacity, application when you have time to commit to either, sometimes it's just a 1-hour consultation. So while we love these stories, you know, Jeffrey, I had no idea you are now the board member of multiple nonprofits. I mean, that's incredible. Perhaps you only have 1 hour of consultation to offer, and that's okay too. And for us at ServiceNow, whether you do volunteer for 1 hour or for a 6-month ongoing engagement, you're still celebrated as a volunteer. So it allows you to, again, research on your own time, apply on your own time. And what I've understood from these matched opportunities is that it's typically pretty flexible between the nonprofit and the person who's providing their time. The nonprofit is just seeking to have this extra assistance. There may be a time bound. For example, again, the hackathon was creating content, but we did a hackathon in July for Black History Month in February. So there's plenty of time to work on it, fine tune, and make any edits. So there's usually it's a working relationship. So there can be some flexibility of the time that you have to offer for a nonprofit. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
So grateful, Marissa, for you repeating these key moments of truth for folks to think about, and great practice. So to reinforce those scheduling flexibility really exists in a greater way with skill-based volunteering than traditional volunteering maybe ever could. Jeffrey, next question is maybe for you. We have a participant asking us about what are the best practices for submitting simple project proposals. And the reason I'm asking you this is because you're a volunteer. You're the one who is responding to nonprofit requests. So I'd love to hear what you think about what is a best practice for a nonprofit when asking for support.
Yeah, I think one of the things is being clear on what help you need. You know, and I think Jeff, you had spoken earlier about the different subcategories that you can reach out and create a assistance for, right? It could be a technologist, that could be a strategist, that could be a marketing marketing guru. So as long as you're clear in regards to what you need help on, how long the engagement is going to be, and what the vision is, right? Like what are you looking, what's the output, what's the outcome that you need from the skills-based volunteering volunteer? then I think those are I'd say key pieces that will help determine who will step in and help. So I think being strategic in the sense of identifying what exactly is it that you need help with, and then ultimately, Jeff mentioned, right, if it's something that, let's say, for example, I might not be able to help with, I've got a big enough, network within ServiceNow that I can say, you know what, I know the perfect person for this task that I can introduce, get them inspired and passionate about helping as well, and then serve you right by that piece. So being clear, being concise, and then determining what exactly is it that you need help with, and then what facet of the volunteer or expertise of the volunteer you need assistance from, I think are very, very important to really make it an impactful engagement.
All wonderful key, we'll just use that word again, Marissa, key best practices. So thank you, Jeffrey, for your responses. I'll just add a few more. The first comes before, and that is, since we've been focusing on quotes today, if you don't ask the question, the answer is always no. So make sure you ask. That may be obvious, but sometimes it's not. A lot of times you don't ask for support. And Jeffrey mentioning that there are colleagues perhaps at ServiceNow or elsewhere to respond if you don't have the skills. It's important to ask. A second a bit of advice comes from some other volunteers, and that is to add numbers when you can, to not overthink it. So definitely follow Jeffrey's advice about saying what the outcome and the output is, but just try not to overthink it. Just ask for it and make that skill known. And then also some advice from a nonprofit partner of Taproot's. Discreet asks can lead to bigger things. So for nonprofits, don't ask for an entire website overhaul, but maybe start with a overview and a set of recommendations on what you could do and see where that relationship grows. It's clearly led to some incredible benefits to those organizations that Jeffrey is servicing as well. Marissa, maybe one or two things to add to that, or does that sound like a good response for best practices for projects?
Yeah, I think one additional comment, just to expand on something you both mentioned, is you might have a need for a lot. We understand that nonprofits are typically small teams, but think about how you can break them down into those different asks. So maybe you need a copy editor for a part of the project. You need a content creator for a social media campaign. You could also use someone to help with grant research. Like, figure out what those separate asks are, and I would post them as separate projects because you're going to be reaching different people for them. So it'll be too much to put all into one ask and for one volunteer, but could you break them up and get 4 volunteers to own each of those asks?
Another wonderful best practice, and something that kind of leads us into our concluding remarks. So Kristen, if I can ask you to pull up the slide deck again, I want to share some next steps for different audience groups. So thank you, Kristen, who's been behind the scenes. So you've seen Jeffrey, Marissa, and I, but thank you, Kristen, for being behind the scenes. And I hope this will get to this last question from someone about the Braven Mentorship Program. But a few direct takeaways. We want you to do these things for companies. If you're with a company, we hope you learn something new, have some good notes. We'd love to hear about it. If something resonated with you today and you're planning to move forward with it, we'd also love to talk. So if you want to have a chat about where your skill-based programming is at, whether offering skill-based opportunity at scale is something that you're interested in doing or thinking about. And we heard from many of you, you're starting on your skill-based volunteer journey. So reach out to us. If you're a volunteer, you've heard some really incredible advice from the perspective of a CSR professional, Marissa, from the perspective of a super volunteer in Jeffrey. So we encourage you to access Taproot Plus, find opportunities that make sense to you. Connect with a colleague of ours, Grace, who is our volunteer community manager, for advice on how to get moving. And then this will appeal to our last question. If you're from a nonprofit, Taproot Plus, because of companies like ServiceNow and others who are supporting us, is available to you for free and at no cost. So we would be delighted to have your questions and your requests of volunteer supports posted and published. Per Marissa's last comment about posting multiple opportunities, there is no limit and there is no cost to your engagement with skill-based volunteers, provided that you have the opportunity to engage them and you have the time and capacity to do that. So for nonprofits and for the participant who had a question about helping third generation Latino college students find internships, that's a great opportunity to post that request to Taproot Plus and find somebody like Jeffrey. Maybe Jeffrey would respond to it. I know he's got a lot of irons in the fire, but that is what our volunteer community is encouraged to do and to support. So 3 practical ways for you to stay engaged in skill-based volunteering. We're coming up at just a few more minutes to the top of the hour, but we saw we lost Jeffrey. That may mean that he's got another activity at the top of the hour and want to be able to respect Marissa's time if she similarly needs to move on. But want to first and foremost thank Marissa and Jeffrey for sharing your time and your insights. Thank my colleague Kristen, who has helped manage the chat and these online polls. And thanking all of you who are with us at the very end. Oh, good, you're back, Jeffrey, so I can make eye contact and say goodbye formally. But want to thank everybody for coming to us this afternoon and spending time with us and engaging in the chat. I'll look forward to looking through that later. If there's something we didn't answer, to get back in touch with you. But want to thank everybody for their time and let this be a formal dismissal. Marissa and Jeffrey, thanks again. Thanks to everyone. I'll stick around and just till the end. But Kristen, we can stop the recording. And again, thank you everybody for your time.